Hi, and welcome to this video, which is on the anger cycle. So, if you remember from the videos on the cycle of anxiety or the cycle of abuse, we talked about this kind of blow-up stage and kind of a build-up stage, and we're going to take a look now at kind of what's happening to us physiologically. What's going on in the background or kind of inside of us that will give us some hints and some ideas about how to manage ourselves more effectively and how to actually not get to crisis mode nearly as often or ideally not at all, and how to affect our crisis behavior so that we can in fact manage ourselves well. And so what happens with anger is that we all kind of have a middle ground, a super chill place. This is kind of a place where you're just kind of lying in the sun, doing really not a lot. Everything's kind of good. So that's the level of stress that's kind of going on here, which is not at all. Really, it's just you're feeling really good. And most of us live above this line. We get up in the morning, and really the only reason we get up in the morning is because we do have stress in our life. And we'll kind of head out into the day. And you know, if we've had a decent night's sleep and we're feeling okay, we'll start off fairly even keeled. And we won't have a lot of stress to go on. But in reality, you know, sometimes we wake up and we wake up on the wrong side of the bed and we're kind of up here, or we wake up and something bad happens, or maybe we had a terrible night's sleep and we start off up here, or maybe we've got some sort of mental health challenge or some life crisis going on and we just live kind of up here all the time anyway. And so there's kind of lots of places to start when it comes to kind of an anger cycle. And obviously the higher up you start, the more angry you're going to be. You're going to get into the arousal cycle much quicker, much easier. And in fact, you might actually spend a lot of your time just being angry. Because how stressed we are, all the things that are going wrong, will kind of build. But we're going to assume for now that you had a decent night's sleep, you woke up, and you know, your breakfast went reasonably well, and you're off to your day. And what happens is, you know, inevitably there's going to be some kind of hiccup, right? There's going to be some kind of thing that goes wrong. And what that's going to do is, instead of just continuing on kind of in a nice line, you're actually going to see your stress bump, right? Maybe not a lot, it depends how big a deal it is, right? And so maybe somebody cut you off on your way to work, and so that, you know, oh, you're a little upset about that, but you know, okay. And then you get to work and somebody's in your parking spot, right? And that might bump you up a little bit. And then you get in the door and the work that was supposed to be done the night before wasn't done. And then at this point, your autonomic nervous system kind of kicks in and says, you know what, things are getting pretty dangerous here. Your stress level is getting pretty high. And, you know, it doesn't take much now to kick you into overdrive. And up you go, right? So this initial kind of stage here is considered kind of the activation stage. So when we think about the managing our emotions video, or we think about the cycle videos, this is going to be kind of the build-up phase, or the phase where we're believing things that lead to feelings that are going to lead to behaviors, right? We're starting to kind of get riled up. And you know, this is where negative self-talk is happening, and things are, you know, you're just like, oh, how dare they, oh geez, they always do this, nobody respects me, nobody cares about me, blah blah blah. And before you know it, you are in escalation. And escalation is essentially you're now going for a ride, right? At this point, typically, if you're not managing yourself, you're in for the whole thing, right? Your body has started pumping out all the chemicals and hormones it needs to do your fight, flight, or freeze, right? This is where your body gets ready for death, for that epic battle. And simply because our bodies are designed to recognize stress as a threat to existence, we really don't have a lot of choices about kind of what happens going on in there once we've triggered it, especially if we're not paying very close attention. You then enter into the crisis phase, which is kind of the peak of your rage or your anger or whatever it is that you're going to do, you do here, right? And so this is where our crisis behavior happens. And again, that can be a wide range of things. It can range from hitting people to throwing things to rage quitting to slamming the door and disappearing for a while, quitting your job, right? Lots of things can happen here. Stonewalling, those sorts of behaviors can happen here, where essentially we're doing something that we've given ourselves permission to. That's kind of the interesting thing here, is we think that when we're here, we're out of control. And if we try to stop our behavior right here, we probably are out of control, right? We don't have the ability to stop ourselves from doing what we always do up here, usually. And so we do feel, we can say, oh, I was so angry, I had no control. Well, the reality is, we actually chose those behaviors back here in our mind, because there's a bunch of stuff we don't do when we get mad, right? Most of us don't kill people. Most of us don't burn things down. Most of us don't do these extreme behaviors. And in fact, I've worked with guys that have said, well, I've never pushed her down the stairs or I never pushed her into the wall, but he's chucked a remote control across the room and shattered it. And he's slammed his fist so hard on the freezer that there's a dent in it, right? Those sorts of things, he's made the decision not to actually lay hands on her, but he has not made the decision to not hit things, throw things, and those sorts of things, right? He's given himself permission to do that. Most of us don't even give ourselves permission to do that level of violence when we're angry, right? But we might say some really mean things. We might demean, we might be really rude, we might go for the soft spot, right? Verbally. But whatever it is we do, that's probably what we're doing here. And eventually, whatever kind of created this situation that we're angry in goes away. Either it stops, or the person goes away because they're freaked out and afraid, or you've left the building, whatever. But eventually, there's going to be kind of a de-escalation and ultimately kind of a depression. So what happens when the body has expended all of this energy, adrenaline, and all that kind of stuff, it actually goes into a recuperation mode, a mode where all of those things are like, they now kind of just flush them from the system, and that's where you get the shakes and start kind of feeling down, right? Low energy, maybe really exhausted. And so this de-escalation phase, de-escalation. If you've gone all the way up, this can be an hour or 2 or 3 or a day, right? It depends on how angry you were, right? It can take a while to come down. And then again, this kind of depression phase, it can last as long as it lasts, right? It depends on your own body and how it reacts. So the interesting thing about all of this is we also know that our cognition, our ability to think, to stay resourced, if you remember kind of being the big I, here we're able to be a big I, right? We are resourced people. But the minute we start getting stressed and start not managing it, our ability to kind of think clearly, so let's call this I'll use a different color. We'll call this the big I line, right? We're going along, and as we get stressed, we start seeing our resources intellectually kind of go down. And they kind of bottom out during crisis, and then they come back up during the depression phase. And really, at this point, kind of where the red is, we see our little eyes showing up, right? These are the strategies from our youth, the unhelpful strategies sometimes, but really survival or coping strategies that we developed when we were young and unsupported in some important way. Watch the video on the creation of the unhealthy self to learn about that. And essentially what happens is we lose brain cells, we get dumb. So some guy's gone out and measured this. I don't remember the guy's name, but you can go find it. We lose 30 IQ points at the bottom of that cycle. 30 IQ points. I don't care how smart you are, that's a lot of IQ points to lose. And you're, most of us just can't spare them, that many. And so essentially, whenever you are in this mode, I highly recommend you make no decisions. Decisions. Wow, that's really bad. I'm going to try that again. Decisions. There we go. That can be read. And just know, do yourself the biggest favor. When you are angry, don't make any commitments, don't make any promises, don't make any decisions. Do your future self a big favor to not have any even bigger mess to clean up because you've decided to quit your job or you've decided to throw that thing away or break that thing or whatever. Just don't. Just don't. Don't do it. All right? Because this is pretty dumb. Minus 30 IQ points. Average is 100. 70, not that bright. Right? Do you want to be making a decision when you're really that far gone intellectually? I don't think so. So, let's take a look at how do we not get here, right? I don't want to be this stupid, honestly. So how do we kind of avoid the pit of stupidity? Well, we manage what goes on here, right? This is our opportunity to kind of intervene and not get up here. And so this is where we need to do our primary interventions and stay with that resourced self, right? The minute we give the bus over to, let the little eyes drive, we've kind of lost control of what's going on, and you're just going to do what you've always done. So we want to actually keep ourselves on the straight and level, right? We want to live our lives kind of handling it, doing okay. And so each of these little activating events are manageable on their own. And if we take the time and have the resource self kind of go to it and say, when that person cuts me off on the road, oh boy, wow, okay, that didn't feel good, didn't like that, and I don't know what's going on for them. Right? We can begin to tell helpful stories to help us calm down again, so that we know when we arrive at work, we're going to not already be activated, right? Already kind of our shoulders tense and ready to kind of go at it. And then when you get to the person who's parked in your driveway again, oh wow, okay, that's irritating. Okay, so I know I can go and talk to them. This is probably the 4th time I'm talking to them, but I can go and sit down and have this conversation because now this is a habit, right? And we need to address this, and maybe we need help addressing it if he's not listening to me. And okay, so all right, I'm okay, I can manage that, and so on down the line, right? If we resolve each activating event and find a helpful story for ourselves, like what we can do about it and still live by our values, then we'll find ourselves constantly kind of bouncing through the day. Getting activated, calming down, getting activated, calming down. And essentially that is a good life. That is a life where you never get stupid enough to make your worst mistakes. Where you're essentially handling things as they come and you're not getting angry all the time. Now when you first start doing this, when you first start kind of paying attention to this, you may actually not even know what your activating events are. You may not actually even know what's going on for you in your body when this happens. So you need to start thinking about, how does my body react when I get upset? How do I slow things down? How do I calm down? How do I know I'm not calm? Does my jaw clench? Do I feel my shoulders rising? Do I get that burning feeling in my gut, or do I feel pain here? Do I start putting things down a bit heavier? Do I close doors stronger? Do I start looking for the exit door? Like, what are the things that you do when you start getting activated? Because your body is sending you signals. And I guarantee you, whoever lives in your life, your children or your spouse, they know what you look like when you're getting upset. If this is an issue for you, I guarantee you the people that have to live with this stuff know what's going on there. They can see it coming. And so if they can see it coming, then you can see it coming. Right? So they might actually be good people to ask. Hey, how do you know when I'm starting to get angry? How do you know when I'm starting to feel stressed? And they can give you clues. Right? Well, you always do this, or I see you do that, or I can hear it in your voice. And start paying attention to those things for yourself. And the first few times this happens, you're going to notice them over here. Right? You're going to go, oh geez, I just went through this whole anger cycle thing that I just learned about. And I totally didn't see it coming, even though I wanted to. And here I am again, having gone to my dumbest place, and now I get to think about all the stuff that I did. Right? So now you can actually, this is a very, very rich opportunity. The opportunity of the depression phase is you're still now. Your body is saying, relax, rest, think, process what just happened, because that wasn't fun for any of us. And then you can begin to paying attention to what got you there. Right? And the things that get you there all the time, or often, or repetitively, are the things that you can deal with fairly easily. You can actually just go back and manage your beliefs around those events so that you can handle them more effectively. Right? Ultimately, this is about you living your values. This is about me living my values. And this is the hardest place in the world to live your values. So do yourself a favor. Learn how to not go here. Learn to choose different crisis behavior. Take permission away from yourself to do the things you do here. And you will lower the frequency and intensity of these events. Because honestly, none of us have full control over our lives and ourselves, that we will never get this upset. But we can and are in control of ourselves so that it doesn't happen very often. And when it does happen, it's really not that big a deal because you know this. And so you just do not give yourself permission to do any of the things that will cause harm up here. So this is how anger works. This is how we engage in the world. And so it's really our duty, if we want to avoid this very, very difficult place, we need to live by our values by managing our emotions and by managing our own stress and taking responsibility for our place in the world so that we ride this ride as little as possible. Because frankly, it's exhausting and nobody enjoys it. That isn't to say that there aren't times that we ought to get angry, right? That we can get upset about things. Lots happens in the world. Some of the greatest movements for change have come from anger, but not anger unchained, not anger unmanaged, uncontrolled. It's anger that is harnessed to living values. It's anger that actually helps us live our values. And so that is kind of a thing that you can do as well. Making sure that always do no harm. Our anger cycles ought not cause harm to others. It ought to cause insight for ourselves so that we can manage our stress and our activating events more effectively. Thanks for watching. Pause this, think about this, kind of paint this over your own life. Remember a situation that that reflects this, and then just take the time to think, okay, how do I either never go here, or how do I reduce the amount of times I go here and reduce the kinds of behaviors I engage in? Thanks for watching.